Hey everyone, I'm Cody with Up to Code. Today I'm going to show you how to install a over-the-range microwave. So before we start, this information can be used for any brand of over-the-range microwave. And that's because the way I measure and have my own methods of doing things can be basically universal. So I hope that helps you. But today's model is an Insignia 1.6 cubic foot. Let's just jump in quick to the tools that we've used today. Let's just do it. Use myself a hammer. That's just for some drywall anchors. Doesn't have to be a stiletto. Doesn't have to be a titanium super fancy one. We need pencil. We need a tape measure. You're gonna need a screwdriver, an impact or a drill. Like I have both, but if you have a drill, you can get away with it. If you don't have an impact, whatever, you can use a screwdriver. We did need a 1/2-inch drill bit. We needed a 1/8 drill bit for pre-drilling. We'll show you all the details on how to use this. A 1 3/4 inch hole saw. If you don't have a hole saw, you can just get away with using your 1/2-inch bit and then just a keyhole saw or a drywall saw. So that's what we used for tools today. We didn't even need a level. And anyway, let's jump into it. This is what you should be looking at some point in time, is a empty space, and we got to put a microwave there. And so we're going to show you how to do that really quick. And throughout this process, I'm going to show you basically the way that they want you to install it, and also a few tips that I do that I customize it and make sure and verify things. Also different drywall anchors, different ideas like that. And stay tuned at the end because there's going to be some bloopers because I'm always messing something up. Okay. I'm going to grab the manual. We have this out. We also have the top styrofoam panel with some parts in there. And we have the microwave sitting on the ground with some templates ready. So when we get into this, I'm going to try to go really quick, not waste your guys' time. Because the hardest part is just laying out what holes to drill and dimensions and things like that. So that's the most important part, is making sure you're not drilling a 6 holes in the wrong spot. The first thing that I do, obviously you're going to want to read all the instructions. If that's your spiel, go ahead and do that. I've installed enough of these that I know that the first thing that I do, even though it's a little bit out of order in the manual, is there's 3 different options for the blower fan motor. And it's either, it'll exhaust through the top, it'll exhaust through the back, or it recirculates. So in this scenario, it doesn't vent any direction. So we have to use the recirculating function. Now in the manual, it'll tell you to pre-drill your holes, measure everything out, and get it ready to hang. But what happens in my mind is if I'm ready to hang, I just go and hang it. And then I would forget to switch the blower motor, and then I'd have to take it all down and flip the motor around. So we're gonna do the motor first. So let's do that. So on page 13, it says select a ventilation type. So it says A is outside through the top, option B is out the back, but we are recirculating, we're option C, and it says go to page 32. So we'll just follow that. Now the problem is 32 is showing you how to prep to hang it and drill all your holes. So we're just gonna skip ahead because we gotta switch this motor before we mess it up. So on page 36 of this manual, now this installation is basically, it could be used for any microwave. Like I already said, is the fundamentals are all the same. And so it doesn't have to be the specific model to get what you need from this video. 5 screws to remove. So we're just gonna follow the instructions. It's pretty simple. They're all laid out really well. Easy diagrams. So you can see the blower motor is meant to just blow straight upward. So we just make sure that you follow the directions and watch where the wire goes. In the diagram, it looks like that. So we're just gonna drop that down. My big head in the way. And we just gotta make sure that wire is good to go. But we spun it the exact same way they told us to. That's gonna blow forward and recirculate. So makes sense to me. So Cody likes to do things a little unorthodox. We're not going to follow the manual 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do that at home if you want. I'm just going to show you the big tips, the important stuff. So we need to figure out how to mount this rail to the wall. So it's going to go here. The microwave hooks onto this, and then it lifts up. There's holes in the cabinet that suck bolts down, and it holds it up in the front. So that's essentially how these microwaves get hung. The instructions are good. There's a template that we're going to follow right here. But what this template, what they want you to do is cut along the dotted line and stick it to the wall and drill the holes according to the template. But I personally don't like doing that because there's just too many unknowns. So I like to use a template as a guide and a way to double check my dimensions. So I'll show you how I'm going to do it. I'm going to lay this bad boy down, and we're going to look carefully, but it shows on the diagram the bottom of this rail. So this rail is shown perfectly on the diagram. It's real life scale, and this dotted line right here is the underside of the cabinet. Now, that's because we don't have a crown molding or anything. It's easy in this scenario because every dimension is from the bottom of the cabinet. So we don't have any extra math. In the manual, it'll tell you if you have a crown molding, then you have to base all your dimensions off the bottom of that crown, and you need spacer blocks and stuff in the back corners. You can follow the manual to do that. It's pretty easy. So for this, I'm just going to measure from the dotted line to the underside of this rail, and it's just a squeak short of 16.5. And that's one reason I don't like using the templates, is because it's all been folded. You don't know how flat it's going to sit. Your dimensions could be all off. So I'm just going to double check 16.5. Now what I like to do is I like to actually go and clip this in to the microwave and check myself, because I don't trust stuff. I got a problem, okay? Got issues. So I'm just going to tip the microwave forward. I'm going to hook that in. I'm putting weight on it, pretend like it's hanging off the wall, and then I like to just measure from there to the top side, and we're going to go just a hair less than 16.5. And so now we've verified that bottom of that bracket is in fact the same as what the template tells us. So I'll just measure that. I've made my marks, and I like to just do a nice little circle around there. Same here. 16.5 small. Make my mark, circle that. Now while we're here, this space is bigger than 30 inches, and the microwave's a squeak smaller, and that's just made so that everything fits. So all our dimensions today will base off of center line, and that's the best or easiest way to not mess it up. So we got to find our center line. This is from the old microwave being hung there, and I know it's pretty close, like it's 15 3/16. 15. So we got to move that line just ever so slightly. When you're doing math or anything from center, always measure from one side and the other side. So like I did, I measured from the left. I'm going to make a new mark, just a squeak smaller than theirs, just on the inside edge. And always measure it the other way, because man, with fractions and all the rest, you could easily be off a 1/4 inch, 3/16, anything. So just measure both ways. So now that we know our center line, we know where the bottom of the rail fits. So right here. So I'm just going to get my big head in the way, but this little, is that a diamond triangle? It's there to show you, yeah, that little notch is there to show you center. And we're just going to line it up with the bottom marks. But before that, we need to know where our studs are. So I'll show you a few tricks while we're there on this topic, okay? So a few tricks to find studs with no stud finder. A, we know they hung a stud. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a little white plastic thing to cover the screw. It's right here. So we know there's a stud there because that's where the cabinet's hung. To confirm that, take this big old hole in the wall, and I can feel the edge of the stud is flush with the edge of this hole. So you can see I've already made this mark. Edge of stud, measure over 1.5 inches. There's the other side of the stud. Center's where I'm going to want my screw. So if you actually look down, their old screw hole was center of a stud. Now typical framing is 16 on centers. It's either 16 or 24. So I'm going to go 16 inch and I'm just going to make a mark. Now because this is all hidden, I don't have to be super worried about, covering those up later. And when we pulled down the old microwave, this one wasn't, it was just sitting into drywall, and that's because they missed. So what I'm going to do is, to confirm this, I just take a drill with just a screw, and I'll fire a screw in there and make sure that there's enough torque that I know that there's a stud there. And I do this trick with cabinetry all the time too. That is bizarre. There's no stud there. So, good thing we didn't assume that there was one based on 16-inch centers. So another trick that you can use to find a stud is if you go up here, if you take this cover plate off, typically there'll be a stud on one side or the other of an electrical box, typically. So if you take that cover off and look carefully, you can sometimes see some wood, and then you know, okay, there might be a stud right here or on the other side. So that's sometimes another indicator of how to find a stud. So anyway, we know that there's one here, and then we're gonna just use drywall anchors on the rest. So I'll show you how to hang it their way, and then I'll show you a few tips on how I would do it myself. So I'm just gonna hold this thing up and just mark a couple of screw holes. I'm just going to line myself up with center, flush with my marks left and right. We can't really worry about level at this time because we just have to follow what the cabinet guys did. If their stuff's out of level, well, we're stuck with it. I'm just going to fill this hole in right here. That's where the stud is. Now we're doing drywall anchors. For the rest, we can just pick a random hole. So we'll just mark this one here. And we'll mark this one as far left as possible. Now let's say, for example, this was a stud. I would just drill a hole through the metal and just smash a screw in there and be done with it. You don't need to, I sometimes, like I said, unorthodox. I would just modify it to get a real screw into a real stud. Okay, so if you don't have your own screws at home and you're gonna use everything out of the package, they send you leg bolts. Don't just fire a leg bolt into the wall because these are so thick, it'll just split that stud in behind. So what I would recommend is this is a 1/8 drill bit, but I always just go by the rule of as long as it's the size of the actual shaft of the screw, but smaller than the threads. This one could have been a squeak bigger, but it doesn't matter. We're just giving that stud some relief so when this big old fat screw goes in, it doesn't just split that wood. So now, I'm not going to use their toggles, but we'll talk about them. Okay? Same thing. I'm going to give you some ideas on drywall anchors. These are the toggles that get sent in the package. I believe it's a 5/8 hole that you need, which is kind of an odd size, but all I do is I just measure the widest part. And yeah, we would need a 5/8 hole to get these babies through. So they go through the drywall. This all opens up automatically. It doesn't fall down the wall because the screw's there, and then you can just tighten it up. But I'll show you two other types that I really like. So I'm gonna have a video just on drywall anchors. This is a special order. It's made by Hilti. It's an HLD2 quick tog. They're the cat's meow. It's a 3/8 hole. You drill the hole, bend these in. These actually grab the drywall, and so when it's sitting like this in the wall, when the screw goes through here, it actually pulls this tight and just sucks it in and sandwiches that drywall. So that's one version. Or Hilti makes another one that is similar to these toggles, but it's like, I would call it like a zip tie. So what this thing does is it actually spins sideways. You drill a 1/2 inch hole, you shove it through, spin it straight so that these are flush. We'll zip tie that in tight, break these off. We might as well just show you. Let's just show you. So we got to use a 1/2 inch bit for this zip tie toggle one. The worst is when you hit a stud after drilling a giant hole. So that one's a 1/2 inch hole, the other one's a 3/8. Sometimes if I don't know if there's a stud right beside it, I'll make it so it spins up and down rather than left to right. So in case it snags on a stud. So now it's in. I bring this so it's flush. I can pull it tight to the back of the drywall. This zip ties into the hole. And you just, sometimes you need a drill bit or something to push that in tight, but I got it tight. Boom. Those are beauty for like TV mounts, stuff like that. So that's one kind. The other kind is just a simple little toggle. This one took a 3/8 hole. Those ones are nice because they sit flush, and because it's kind of translucent, it doesn't look like a giant hole. That's why I like those. So if you don't want to use, or if you have some of these old school anchors, you can use those. These ones are a 1/4 inch hole. They would work, but I would just do like 2 per side rather than just one. So the one on this side is an actual totally different thread. It's custom thread for those toggles. I just don't want to go tight there yet because I need to correct it on the level and just match my marks. Now that this is mounted, we have to figure out where these screws go, and basically for the 2 screws and the power cord. In the instructions, they'll have a top template, so you'll see it kind of as is. It shows you where the wall goes. There's a dotted line. You're supposed to cut it out, but like I said, I don't use that stuff, but it's supposed to spin upside down and fit like that. But we're just going to use it as a guide and a way to verify what we're doing. So that's going to sit there, and then I'll show you how I measure and how I relate it to this. So remember, the microwave's going to hang on this bracket that we mounted to the wall. And there's just a small discrepancy in how it all goes down. So here, like if you see these these screws, this mounting bracket sits against there, but it also dishes out. And I'm going to measure how much this dishes out, which is actually just over 1/8 of an inch. So I have to be another 1/8 of an inch beyond the head of the screw. So then if you come up here, depending on how you want to hold your tape, if I go 1/8 extra beyond the screw, I'm actually a 1/4 inch past the actual main part of the microwave. So the holes in question are this one, and this one. Now, like I said before, everything's going to be based off of center. So we want to find the center of the microwave, then we're going to find the center of the cabinet space. So this microwave is just a little less than 30 inches. We won't get like crazy specific, but all, like I said before, it's just measure from both sides. So it's 14 and 15/16 is center. So I measure it this way, I confirm it this way. Yes, that's my true center mark. I can do it again right near this power cord, just so I can go off of center. Then we'll do the same over here. So this one I've measured and it's 15 and just shy of 1/8 of an inch. Do the same here. I'm good. I'm gonna make one at the back and then I'm just gonna make a line so I can measure anywhere in this space.
Boom.
Okay, we're rolling?
Yep.
So we filmed ourselves making the center marks. Okay, so we'll probably back up and do this one. Okay. All right, so we have our center marks. Now, depending on how you want to hold your tape, you can hold it at the one or you can hold it at the end. I like to just hold it at the end. So from the center of this bolt to here is 11 3/4. I'm going to just confirm that on the template. So the template's laying in the direction it's supposed to go. So it shows you this hole and it has a center mark. I'm just going to hold it on that center of the bolt hole to the dash line is 11 3/4. So I know that that is a dimension that is true. So I might as well just try to mark that right now. So 11 3/4. I'm going to go up here and I'm just going to make a mark. So center of the screw hole showing 9.5. I'm going to confirm 9.5 from here. So I know that those are spaced right now. We just need to know the distance from the wall. So when we're looking at the template, we got to remember that the wall is here at the bottom and it's spun up like this. So when we measure, we're going to measure from the dotted line that says wall to the screw holes. Now it's going to be a little bit different and I'll show you why. And that's because of that bottom steel bracket. So remember, I got to hold my tape at 1/4 inch past the main frame of this microwave. And we are 9 3/8 on the right hand side from the back wall. Now on the template, we're 9 1/4, but we're 1/8 more because of the way that bottom bracket sits. And I think I'm right, but they have a 1/2 inch hole, so there is some play to deal with there too. Now when you're measuring, the left side of all this is actually slightly different. So if I measure this left, let's see here, I'm going to hold it 1/4 inch past, yeah, I'm 9 11/16, and this is 9 9/16. I'm 1/8 more, like I should be. So hold me at the 1/4, 9 11/16. So now what I do is, because those are small holes, I'm just going to circle them with a small circle so I don't get confused on which is a small hole and which one's the big hole for the power cord. So now we're going to measure the power cord. So from center, we're 6 1/4. Template is a little goofy because it's not even, the hole is relatively there, but I always just go by this. So I'm going to go 6 1/4 from center to the right. From the back wall, we're just going to hold the tape at 1/4 inch. To the center of the cord is 6 3/8. And then I'll do a big circle around that so I know that's the power cord. If I was you, because I'm going to double check all these measurements right now. I'm not going to show it on film. I suggest you do the same. Double check everything before you start drilling holes. So let's do that now. let's take a short commercial break. The trick with drilling is don't push all your weight up or you'll explode the top side of the cabinet. So the hole saw, you could drill up, make the pilot hole poke through, and then drill from the top down, and then you won't explode the top side. So, and I go in slow gear because these things will twist right out of your hand. All right, holes are drilled. Good thing I put these safety glasses on halfway through the drilling. We're gonna get prepared. These are the 2 screws that are gonna hold the cabinet up. We've marked the holes because we have old holes and new holes, so we marked the new holes. So that way when we're lifting this thing up, we can just drop these in and spin it. Everything's safe. So you're gonna need 2 people to do this because the hardest part is being able, it's not that it's that hard to hold up, but it's pulling that cord through, making sure it's not looped or snagged in the hole, and then just holding it up long enough to get those screws down. But let's do it. So that's a wrap. We got the microwave up and functioning, but a little bit of an inside story here. This outro's been filmed a few months later. When we hung the microwave, it actually wasn't working. So Alex and I got a little sidetracked and frustrated because it had been sitting on her floor and she's been wanting it installed. She waited for me to film this video. Anyway, we got it up and it didn't work. She sent it back, got it working now. So that's the story behind this little outro. Long-winded, I know. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. I hope the video helped. Let me know what content you guys want to see next. If you have questions or comments, and also check out the merch shelf down below. Buy yourself some up to code gear, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. I like to make it snappier. Go play on the street now. Wish I was like my brother Matt, because he always does stuff like this, like just pushes down and makes his. Yeah, but he is ripped. I'm not. Take them all off, and when you're left with a bucket of parts, you'll be all right. It'll still work. Do or do not. There is no try.